What's poppin', y'all? Vlad is, let's just say, he's urinating on the grave of his enemies. In this case, it's Rosenberg and Ebro getting their show canceled. And there are some interesting background. There's some interesting background to this beef that I'll get into a little bit later. But I want to cover it because, funny enough, he predicted this at the right time. Because in April 3rd, 2025, he would post the following. And this is Vlad. For all the up-and-coming hip-hop media outlets, look at Peter Rosenberg for what not to do. Same dead-end, low-paying radio job for 20 years. Never got a promotion. In fact, he got demoted when Ebro took the main position on the Hot 97 morning show. It's hard to compete with Ebro. Ebro's also he's more willing to disagree. He's not willing to just keep the peace. And that type of a personality is always going to dominate the show. Spent 18 years uploading to his YouTube channel to only have 50K followers. Most of the videos he drops get less than 1K views. Hated on every new media person who came in the game. Formed no relationships with any of us. Will ultimately retire broke and bitter. I don't think that Rosenberg is going to retire broke. That guy, he's not a spender. I mean, unless he's spending on like women or something like that. But I think like he got a divorce and I don't know his personal situation. But no, he's not going to retire broke. But people with Vlad's level of money tend to consider people broke for just, I don't know, not having as much as they would expect them to have. Like, we've never heard him complain about money. Rosenberg, that is. But the interesting thing is that this was in April. And in the most recent episode of their show, the Ebro and Laura Rosenberg show, which they have now on YouTube, you should check it out. I would like people to watch their stuff. They, and specifically Rosenberg, said that he's been working without a contract for 5 to 6 months now. Now, 5 to 6 months now, that's around June. And this was in April. So Vlad was really on some, like he said, on some Vlad Stradamus activity to predict this that far. Well, he didn't predict the firing, but we will continue because Vlad would talk about it again. And he would say, now that everyone's talking about Ebro's morning show ending on Hot 97, let me explain the difference between radio and new media. Radio people were required to hate their competitors. Hot 97 and Power 105 fight over the exact same set of ears in the New York area, so management requires them not to work with their rivals. This is why bozos like Rosenberg always hated me, academics, and every other new media person. He just kept doing what his boss told him he should do. New media is totally different. There are billions of potential viewers, so everyone can carve out a lane for themselves and do well without stepping on anybody else's toes. This is why you see academics, Adam22, Traplo Ross, Whack 100, The Danza Project, Sean Cotton, Math Hoffa, 1090 Jake, myself, and others all get along, do each other's podcasts, share business info, and ultimately succeed together. Personally, I like our way better. I don't believe that this is true. First off, let's not pretend that, let's take it back to academics, because Vlad was saying, yeah, you know, Ebro or Rosenberg hated on new media outlets, and yeah, he did hate on academics, but academics was, and there were very, very few. Let's take it back to 2017. 2017, when you talk about the biggest people in hip-hop commentary, 2017, 2018, who was it? You had academics, on YouTube at least. Vlad was still doing his thing, but you had another individual who's been MIA for quite a while, and that is Dom Is Live. So Dom Is Live was crushing it, covering the new age, right? Like you had academics that was covering the Uzis, the Yachties, and that whole wave, but there was this newer wave of kind of like Instagram-ish influencers. He was covering Bad Baby a lot. He was covering 6ix9ine a lot. He was covering XXXTentacion before he was covered by academics. He was covering, who else? He was covering Boonk. He was covering all of these different characters that came up in this kind of like SoundCloud V2 era that you could call it. And Dom Is Live had came from the GTA. He had a Grand Theft Auto channels. He went through a lot and he was doing his own thing and he was crushing it. Like you just look at old Dom Is Live videos. The guy was funny. He had his own person and you could tell like, yeah, he took some of his approach from academics and it was modeled after him, but he was killing the game. And academics absolutely hated on Dom Is Live. He hated on Dom Is Live. He had a whole stream where Dom Is Live was nothing but respectful. Now, I wouldn't say trying to win the approval of academics, but he was just trying to figure out like, yo, why doesn't this guy mess? And now they're cool. I know that they're cool now. But at that time, let's not pretend like, yo, Academics was just this happy guy that was just welcoming anybody in. No, he felt threatened by Dom is Live at the time, and he wanted to be the big dog, the big honcho in charge. Now, over time, I think he settled into his position, and this was, I think this was before Everyday Struggle, I'm not sure, but he settled into his position now, and I don't think he has that fear that anybody's going to take his place. So he's been a bit more like welcoming to other people, and he mentions a lot of people. So I think Academics has changed and matured in that way, but let's not pretend that he was always like that. That is not the case. And even early on, like, there were other platforms that were taking Vlad's formula, Sean Cotton being one of them. I think Vlad was less threatened by people. Like, he never talked trash about anybody, and he's helped a lot of people. Like, people that reach out to him, they say, like, you know, they keep a good relationship with him. But circling this back, because there was competitors and there was hate, I just gave you guys one of the biggest examples. I think the show ending doesn't have anything to do with them hating on each other. I think it has to do with failing to adapt. It's a distribution problem. Like, for instance, you have these guys that are only on radio, and then maybe they post the interview on YouTube or something like that. But how is consumption happening right now? Even Vlad, he used to just post, well, he would do clips, but he used to post full interviews, and then he started breaking down the interviews a ton. And then even more than breaking down the interviews, like the 6ix9ine one, he didn't have this happen, but he started to allow a lot of these people to create short clips, like TikToks, things like that broaden the reach of the interview. 6ix9ine interview is probably one of the most infamous for this. And Vlad does own his copyright, and he takes people down when he wants to. So the fact that these shorts, reels, etc. are allowed to be up is because Vlad feels that they are benefiting him. So the point is, radio doesn't have that kind of distribution. These guys, and to be relevant right now, you have to talk about these people. You have to talk about an Academics. You have to talk about an Adam. You have to talk about a Traplo Ross. You have to talk about Whack. You can't ignore this whole new wave if you're an Ebro, for instance, or if you're a HOT97, because you're out of touch at that point. They're just talking to the rappers and not even really the new rappers. So they're kind of stuck in this time capsule, and they can't really get out of it. And you're not going to be the most relevant. And this is the thing. It's okay if you're not going to be the most relevant if you're doing your own thing and you're happy doing your own thing, you're in your own lane. However, if you're on a radio show and they want you to be one of the biggest players and they want you to run up the views because that's where the ad placements are coming, then you're going to have to talk about what everybody else is talking about. And therein lies the problem. So I don't think this is radio having issues with each other and that's why that these guys' shows are getting canceled. It's just because they're just not bringing in the bread. And then Vlad continues and says, HOT97 kept Ebro and Rosenberg employed for almost 2 decades, even though they were never the top show in their market and were probably unprofitable their last 10 years. And the day they get let go, the first thing they do is trash the company instead of being appreciative for what the company did for them. That ungrateful attitude is what keeps employees like this forever employees. They'll say the same thing about the next company that fires them. Funny enough, this is what Joe Budden was doing. Like, he did this at Everyday Struggle. He did this at the record labels. He did this at Spotify. But what did Joe Budden eventually do? Well, he got with Patreon. But Patreon's, well, it's not like he works for Patreon. Well, I think he does have some sort of a role there. But his primary thing is just using Patreon's service. And he builds his own thing. So eventually he said, yo, this working under people or having a situation like this, screw all this. I'm doing my own thing. And he's one. Like, there are certain people that cannot be employees. Like, Joe Budden is one of them. Vlad, I don't know enough. I think Vlad could have been an employee if they had given him the opportunity, but Vlad had always been entrepreneurial, even like in his early days with all those like DVDs that he said he was doing. But yeah, the reason why is that Rosenberg and them were saying that, yo, you know, like, I can't believe they did this to us after 20 years, and they're talking about like the company changing. But this is the thing. If the people that you've worked with at the company for decades have left and it got bought out and there's new people in place, what appreciation do you have to have for the company? The company is just this entity. It's not people. It's not individuals. It's like if you were at Def Jam for 10 plus years and now everyone at Def Jam is somebody new. What are you going to thank Def Jam for? You should be thanking the people that were there that helped you. And Rosenberg actually replied to this with a tweet and delete after he got cooked. And this just showed his mentality, because he would say something along the lines of, oh, something, they're still not going to hire you, bro. And this is where I had to facepalm and say, is this guy Rosenberg delusional? The amount of money they would have to pay Vlad to hire him, for him to show up early in the morning every day to do a radio show, it wouldn't make sense for them to pay him that much, because it would be less than what he's making on his own platform, and he wouldn't generate that much for them business-wise. So not only would this never happen, but he's also not seeking for it to happen, because he would lose less control, he would lose less mobility, he would have less mobility, because he would probably have to move to New York, and his family is in California, is on the West Coast. So the fact that Rosenberg thinks that Vlad wants to get hired somewhere just goes to show that Rosenberg cannot get out of the employee mindset, which there's nothing wrong with, but it's important to understand where someone's mindset is. Like in Ebro, for instance, he is more of an employed guy. So you shouldn't talk down on Ebro. And this is where I think the problem was with the Dame Dash interview that he did with, what was his name? Charlemagne and DJ Envy. I can't believe I almost forgot DJ Envy's name. He's very entrepreneurial, partially because he can't get along with many people, Dame Dash that is. But these guys, Charlemagne and DJ Envy, they like the safety and security of having consistent employment. There's nothing wrong with that. But they also do their own thing on the side. But they're not going to leave their main thing, because they're like, hey, why would I rid myself of this consistent pay and this predictability, even though, some people say, job security is not predictable, all that other stuff. So you have to understand where that person is coming from. So Rosenberg here clearly does not understand where Vlad is coming from. And therein lies the problem. But he replies and he cooks him and says, never wanted a job, punk. Unlike you, I built my own platform and made 100 times more than you. I personally don't like the whole money thing. I think it's unnecessary. It's funny how you talk ish to me on social media, but the last time I approached you in person, the first thing you did was apologize. See, damn, he really hit him like that. That's crazy. Now, some people will say, because Ebro came, and I want to get into the more political side of this, even though I really don't care about politics, but Ebro came into this and was saying that, he got fired because of the Trump stuff and, the right wing, and they were bringing AOC and Zohran Mamdani and all these other people, and he tried to make that the reason for him getting axed, which I don't think that's the case. If he was overperforming at his job, they would not care. But Rosenberg, Rosenberg and Ebro are both they're both anti-Israel, and Vlad is pro. So now he doesn't say it too much, but Vlad would talk about hey, DJ Khaled, he should be pro whatever he is, and Drake should be pro what do we call it, Israel, because Drake is half Jewish or something, even though Drake's entire team is Arabs, Middle Easterners, etc. So Vlad, I think there's some sort of animosity there going on between them two. I think Vlad feels like Rosenberg is a sellout in that regard, but I don't think that's I think that's just the cherry on top for Vlad to dislike Rosenberg even more, because he feels like he's not standing up for his people, or whatever, however you may look at it. So that's just a cherry on top. I don't think that's the contributor to them not liking each other whatsoever. I think Rosenberg has not liked Vlad for a very long time. Same thing with Ebro, although Ebro doesn't speak on or mention Vlad very much at all. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.